Hi, we're back with another episode of the AI Bros, the sixth episode, I believe this is. And I'm
Damn.
here and I'm here with John Lawson, who is not spilling the tea, but rather drinking it. John Lawson III, ladies and gentlemen, my absolutely incredible co-host.
What's up, guys?
So you took a week off and kind of disconnected. I saw you unplugged. I'm sure you're still connected to your local AI and all that. But did do you feel like you missed anything last week?
Yeah. I go away for a week and they have the Super Bowl of announcements around, everything AI. But that's cool. That's cool. It's like I was unplugged for an entire week. I mean, I turned on the computer once.
Nice, nice.
I know. It was nice. It was great. But now I'm back. Okay. Reality has hit in. Well,
So
can't
there
stay like
was
that forever.
Google did the I/O over in Mountain View over there, and then Microsoft did their build. I don't know where they did that. I'm guessing in Redmond, probably. I don't really know where they did that. And then both of those guys were upstaged because Jony, Ive, and Sam met at a bar in San Francisco, apparently, and dropped something about all new hardware that OpenAI is going to produce, right? You and I had talked about this before, and you mentioned, like, why isn't somebody doing something with the AirPods, right? Like, why aren't they putting a camera in there? Why aren't they putting an AI assistant in there? Da 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 da. I read a lot about this because this upstaged everybody else's conference and announcements and everything else, right?
Right.
Jony Ive essentially and a lot of people that left Apple shortly after Jony. Evans Hankey, who was leading design at Apple after Jony left, she's now joined this Love From organization that has his I/O division. That's his hardware division. So apparently
Hmm.
he's already designed this thing, and he
Right,
showed it to
right.
Sam.
And
They
Sam's
said
like,
it
I'll
wasn't.
buy it.
They said it wasn't glasses. It's not a phone. He said it's a third core device. They didn't say it wasn't a watch, but that's a really hard first product. A lot of people said like an amulet, like the Humane pin, or maybe like something that just hangs like front and center. Um, I can't see everybody going back to the 70s gold medallion and the shirts open all the way down and all that again. But so what do you think? What was your idea? Any
Ah,
ideas?
nah, look, I've never been one that was good at guessing. I'm not really, I have no idea, but I'm glad it's not glasses. Because, I mean, I got my glasses. And
Yeah,
I like changing my glasses and having different looks. So I'm gonna change my look right now.
there you go. Look at
Boom,
that.
now I'm different look.
Now
You
you're a
know,
watch dealer. All of a sudden, you're dealing watches instead of giving commentary. I don't know. That's what it
I
looks
don't
like to
know.
me.
I
I'm
don't
just,
know.
yeah.
But it needs to be something, practical. That's for sure. It's gonna be something practical. And
So
it's
when
gonna be
Apple
game
says core
changing,
devices,
evidently.
they Apple pairs together Apple Watch, iPhone, and AirPods. That's Apple Core, they say, right? That's their three biggest selling items, right? Not everybody buys a MacBook, right? Let's be real about that, right? So could it be earbuds? Could it be a necklace? I don't think they want to put it in that same brooch category with the humane thing, right? I think that
No,
the
those two
hangover from
things,
that is still there, right?
yeah, nobody liked that. Nobody liked the rabbit
Yeah,
AI
yeah,
devices. So
and I don't think they're trying to replace the phone. So I don't know, but I think they're going to sell the hell out of it, whatever it is, right?
they better.
They
They're
say
betting a lot.
they're well, yeah, they're putting the name on it, and they're also from reports and some stuff that I watched. they were saying that they kind of wanted to bundle it with a subscription, right? So like if they want subscribers, right, they could bundle it in, and like the Humane actually had a subscription. I think the Rabbit did too. There was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
subscription on model on it, right? And the glasses don't have it, but wait, that will happen too, right? Anywhere that they're processing and doing AI, it's going to have a subscription at some point, right?
Yeah. I can
So
see that for sure.
I'm
For
just
sure.
wondering, like, how close it would be to like a pair of AirPods, because there is a lot of other companies competing in that space. Yes, Apple has probably the lion's share because they were like the originators, and they still are kind of the gold standard. But the active noise cancellation and the transparency and all that kind of stuff is from other companies is getting a lot better, and it's not so hard to recreate anymore as it was when they.
However, if
Yeah,
you got Apple devices, you're not switching.
it's true. It's true.
So I don't think they should try to do anything, because if I'm in Apple world, no matter what you put out there, I'm not going to take these out because these work with my Apple devices.
All of them.
All
I
right.
mean, and like just latch onto them when you start it up or get near it or whatever, right? So, and
Yeah.
that is a real benefit for me, the auto switching and everything, But
Right. So I don't think they're going to do that. Then again, watch could be the same thing. It's like, yeah, you could do a watch or you can do earpods and earbuds. But if you do either one of those things, you can count out the Apple audience.
and that's really their audience, because they're being introduced to a large portion of this audience that they're building through Apple, through the iPhone, through that gateway to OpenAI, right? So, um, I don't think they necessarily want to compete with them, but I think they're a lot like Zuckerberg, where they're like, we we know that you're not going to give us access to certain features and capabilities of the iPhone, right? You're not going to give us access to the GPS, whatever, right? And how Apple is, and how they want to license those APIs and everything, right? So uh, it kind of comes down to, it's kind of got to be a necklace, right? Or some kind of
Yeah,
a bobble on the end of something hanging around your neck, right?
that's what I'm thinking. Something forward facing. It's going to record everything. It's going to listen, but it's going to need to probably give you feedback as well. I don't know what it's,
Yeah.
you know,
And,
because it needs to be interactive.
yeah, and so it's got to be auditory, because obviously they're trying to push that audio angle, right? Because that's
Yeah.
big for them, right? I imagine they're probably going to have a camera for computer vision, but I can't see where it would be on all the time like a police body cam. That requires massive amounts of energy and a lot of more processing power.
Yeah. 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 Did you see the not open AI, but the glasses coming from Google?
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. The XR, they call them. That's pretty cool stuff. My thought is on this. I was a Google Glass Explorer. I had those things in 2015, 2016. I was the first one in the state of Florida to had those, right? I was the first one to call them out. I'll show you the link on LinkedIn. It's one of the first articles I ever wrote on LinkedIn about how the thrill is gone, right? And I was the first to notice that they pulled their developer evangelist Jordan from the thing. They closed the one of the other base camps, they called them, where you would go and try on the glasses and everything. They closed one of them, and then they had something that they were doing in London, and they shut down. And I called all this out, and I said, uh, uh, things like this are planned out in a corporation the size of Google 6 months ago, right? That they don't make a decision and enact it like that day. That doesn't happen, right? So I called them out and I said, "This is going away." And then they like shuttered it up for the glass explorers, they called us, right? And they said, "Oh, but it lives on in glass for enterprise." right? That's what they called it. Oh, they're going to be using them in warehouses and blah, 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 blah. If they had glass for enterprise and they've been operating it all this time, why didn't they like just segue that product right back into a consumer product, right? And make it like, I mean, these are a normal looking pair of glasses. They're about as close as you get to Wayfarer without infringing on their patent. I think at least a design patent or a trademark, right? Um, but man, they were close. The ones I saw that they were wearing, but it's got some great features. Great features.
And great feedback. I mean, everybody that's used it said it's pretty good. And it's even better than the Meta glasses. So,
I did notice. I was watching the one segment. There was the girl who was demoing them, and she was backstage. And when she first came around the corner from backstage and came out onto the stage and was kind of looking around, um, the video became a little jittery and stuttery. Now that may have been because it was a Wi-Fi feed, and they were actually feeding the live video from the glasses to something. Right? That's a lot for a pair of
yeah,
glasses
I
to
don't know if
do.
that was the glasses or if it was the feed.
Right? And but other than that, it looked really good. And the way that it kind of works, where it's down in the lower part rather than up above, like the glass was up here as a thing that sat up here, right? This is kind of like down in the corner, and it's just part of one. So it's really kind of out of your vision unless you're like looking down at it. So I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
My thing with Google is after Google Glass, like I was one of the first, right? And I told you I was the first in Florida to have it. And I invested a lot of time and energy being an evangelist for it, and had actually gone out and created a application, was getting ready to build an application called Caption with the brackets, because my hearing is awful and was even back then in 2015. And I wanted to make it so the glass would listen and give me a closed caption of the conversation of the person I was having in front of me. That's kind of a thing now for these. It's in these. It's not in the Google Glass yet or in the Meta Glass, obviously, because there's no readout, but it does do the translation, and that's kind of good. It's amplifying what they're saying into my ear in English, right? But because I spent all that time and all that energy, like I joined up with a bunch of other glass explorers, and we were having meetups, and we were going on trips and all kinds of stuff together, right? And
How long did that
promoting
last?
and 6 months, right? If that, right?
Okay.
A quarter, a good quarter,
I
right?
mean, it seemed like it came and went very quickly.
Very
So,
quickly.
okay.
And it so I my willingness to invest a whole lot of time and energy into any
Yeah,
Google project, right? I don't call them Google products anymore. I call them Google projects because they'll have
that's what
two
they
or
are.
three of the same thing going on and
Yeah.
like kill it and like not even try and bring it. It's hard, right? It's hard, but man, they're slamming out the AI, right? They're putting Apple to shame. Apple should be ashamed of themselves next to what Google's like.
Yeah. I mean, people, I don't know. I talk to a lot of, people about this. I'm like, Apple, that's not Apple's game. Apple does not need to be leading in AI. They don't need to be doing that yet. They're a device manufacturer. When they figure out how to put it in a device and it be easy and accessible and private, then they'll do it. Right now, I don't think they don't like it. They
Yeah,
don't
it
like
it
it.
doesn't fit with their privacy thing. Like all of a sudden, we're going to access all your information, so we got AI on you.
Right.
That's they're trying to make, and they say that's the scuffle. It's Apple's privacy policy versus AI needs to know everything about you, right? And like, where does that
Yeah.
intersect
How do
and
we
end? And
control that?
yeah,
You know? And it's still, I mean, come on. AI is still I mean, you can't totally trust it. You can't. It's impossible to really say, yeah, we got it. We got the guardrails up and we're going to be able to do this. And I think that's one of the things that is blocking. their moves. So who knows? Maybe once this, you know, maybe there's a deal in the working that we don't even know about with Apple and OpenAI. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean they've formed a partnership since the beginning. I can't think that they're not still working together very closely to, because I mean, like Apple's, like we've said many times, introduced them to millions of customers, right?
Yeah.
They got to consider Apple strong, but then they're probably respecting Apple's, like, word of silence and all that. But then they go and grab Jony Ive, at the same time. It's kind of like shots fired, right? I don't know. Maybe
No, I
Apple's
mean,
over Jony and he's a free agent, and,
yeah,
wish
about
him
to
all the
say he's
best,
out
right?
there. He can do what he wants,
Yeah. They didn't make him
you
an
know.
Apple fellow like they made Phil Schiller when Phil Schiller
Mm,
retired, right? And Federici, I'm sure, is going to be a fellow pretty soon, right? Or the CEO, or John Turnus. But anyway, you were just talking about you can't trust them. The guardrails weren't up and everything, right? There was this whole thing this week about what do you want to call it? Yeah, they put out the new Claude Opus 4, right?
yeah, yeah,
And apparently, in testing it to see if what it will do, right? Like, can we trust this with a person yet? In testing it, they gave it access to an email feed that said eventually the large language model that was reading this email feed was going to be shut down. But at the same time, in the same email feed, they were seeing information that the engineer that was the one that was going to shut it down was having an affair outside of his marriage. This was all a schema that they put together to test it, but the thing did say to him, "Hey, listen, you shut me down, I'm going to rat you out." And she's going to know, and that's going to be right. I will tell, right? It put him to the pace, right? Um, so it will sacrifice somebody else to save itself, right? So they're trying to tune it to values, right? That Anthropic, I couldn't think of the name. Claude Opus 4 essentially was the. I read the article just before we got on the air here, and it if it apparently they're also testing it, so if you're a developer and you're doing something illegal with it, immoral with it, right? Because Anthropic is trying to be like the safe AI. Really, they're trying to do kind of the Apple thing, right? The privacy thing and the safety thing. And so they're uh, saying that the thing will essentially alert the authorities and it will
yeah. I heard that story was retracted.
in testing they've had this problem. It was given like,
Right. It wasn't
it
like,
was it was very intentional to see what it would do, right? And that scenario probably isn't going to happen in the real world, right? The one engineer made a statement, he then retracted the statement. He says, let me be very clear. He said TBC, right? To be clear, this is in a testing environment when we were like putting we were bolting
right.
the guardrails on, right? And we were doing this, right? It was an extreme example, right? But I wanted to let you know.
That there's a possibility.
It's still right, and that was the big thing. I watched this the Verge cast the other day. Nilay Patel and David Pierce and Alex Heath is the other one, the other writer, and they were talking about, like, we know that OpenAI and Jony Ive are going to put out this hardware, and we know it's like going to be like a always there companion, but with as many mistakes as AI still makes and as many different scenarios for disaster as there still is this a product that people are going to buy and put on them and wear on them 24/7, right? And that's a real question for, I think, everybody that's around it. I'm not trying to be the doom and gloom guy on AI here, folks. I'm very pro AI, but that's a real question. Will people be enamored with it enough to kind of overlook its faults and uptake it.
Well, somebody's got to be the guinea pigs, and somebody will.
the
There will be those first adopters, and then that will give them more data, more scenarios to test and work through, and then maybe it'll be ready for public consumption.
So that first product would be a good thing to buy if you're a collector and you're looking for hardware to collect. A lot of people went and
Maybe.
bought the Vision Pro because it was the first one, right? That
Yeah, but
model,
what is
right?
that worth now?
I think they're thinking of what it will be worth in like 10 years, 20 years, when it's like,
Yeah.
like they're doing the unboxings now from 20 years ago, right? And like,
Right,
look at
right,
this,
right.
right? And people are like, oh my God, look at that suitcase you had to lug around. Yeah.
Yeah, the $3,000 Vision Pro suitcase. Crazy. And anybody that I see with one of those, I was like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I
I,
get it if Apple gave it to you for free, but why would you pay all that money for that thing? I never understood that.
like I said, I've been quick to been a first adopter, right? And,
Yeah, how much were those back in the day? It was like
16.
1,500.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the benefit of that was, one, I got all kinds of press coverage, dude. I did a press release on myself and contacted all the local news stations and everything, and I was all over the airwaves. People were watching dinner and hearing about Bruce Burke with Google Glass, the first guy in Florida, right? Seriously, my friends were like, "I saw you on TV tonight," right? But also the visibility I got out of it totally, right? I had people from France that were doing interviews with me. They were calling me up. They were interviewing all the glass explorers, and they did a whole podcast with me back then. And the benefit was they gave me 3 invites to invite 3 other people. And I was at a tech conference in New York at Javits, and I was walking around wearing them. And this guy came chasing me down. I was just walking around
Just to
down the
see him.
aisles. A guy chased me up down the aisle, and he was some kind of company he had. He was a developer, right? And he wanted a set that he could develop on. He's like, I heard that they're giving out invitations. Do you have invitations? And I said, yeah, I've got 3. I just got them like 2 days before that, right? He had seen the news thing. And I said, I'll sell you one for the price I paid for the glasses. And I said, you
Oh,
still
so
got
you
to buy
got
the
you got one
glasses.
off.
And when I got after I called Google out and said I don't, the thrill is gone, and I published the article and everything, I sold them. So I didn't
Hmm.
lose anything. I gained, actually, and I gained a hell of a lot of publicity. So
Yeah, that worked once.
yeah, I
I'm
like I
just
said,
saying, like the Vision Pro people didn't get that kind of.
no,
I think the
no.
first few maybe, but it was
Day
kind of
one
like
on
over.
YouTube, right? Like day one on YouTube, but maybe 1 million views, right, or something like out
Right.
of, maybe some lucky contestant, he happened to hit right, But after that, no, it went up and kind of quickly went down as far as trending. Within the first week, I would say the trend was over, and they're all like, Leo Laporte was like, I told you guys, right? And they're all like, no, no, you don't understand, Leo, because they all leading up to it, right? They're like, it's going to be, and he got there and he's like, I've seen so many of these come and go, right? He's like, I've seen these headsets for decades now, right? And so, I don't think that's, I tried one in 1999, 2000. It was one that Jared Lanier, who was the AR VR guy back then, he had the dreadlocks. I forget the name of his company, but it was one that he had done. They had it at Dave and Buster's. You'd stand up on a platform, and it had like a waist high kind of a guardrail around it, so you couldn't step off and break your
Yeah, I
neck, right?
remember those.
And you had like a long cable that went off the back of your head back to the machine.
Right.
And it was, I mean, the graphics were 16-bit at the very best, right? I mean, it was plainly awful, and you got like 10 seconds, and it's a game you never seen before, and like it was awful. But I I've never subscribed a whole lot to that stuff. I've had all the glasses, right? I've had the Google Glass. I got the Meta Glass. I haven't gotten the new Google Glass. I'm going to wait and see how that really shakes out.
Yeah, it's not going to get fooled twice.
Yeah, we won't get fooled again, right?
All right, let's see if they're going to be very what do you call it? If they're going to really support this time
Yeah.
out. So, hey, I do want to definitely, just because you mentioned Anthropic, I do want to talk about um, Opus 4 just because of it's a top tier model, but it's designed to extend autonomous computer code writing. And that's something that's just fascinating that they have actually had it code for like 7 hours continuously without it falling apart. So that's huge.
That's a full-time employee.
It's a full-time employee now.
And it off of one prompt. I mean, it doesn't matter how long the prompt was, but essentially they gave it marching instructions and said, "Go do this," and it went
And
and it was obviously very complex if it was programming for that long and developed that much code. That the way that thing codes, that must have developed a boatload of code in one day.
right?
Wow.
I'm like, that's that's game changing on so many levels. But I think it's interesting that Anthropic now is putting their flag in the sand. We're going to make a top tier model that's really specifically for code writing.
Well, they got while you were on vacation, they got there was 5 banks, one of them JP Morgan, I think it was Bank of America, some of the other big ones. There was a Mitsubishi FJ credit facility, 3.5 billion with a $1 billion line of credit to do whatever Anthropic needs to do.
Wow.
From like
Wow.
five or six banks, like, just it's just a line of credit, right? It's not funding, it's a revolving line of credit to go get that data center that you need, right? Go get, the
Yeah.
developers you need, go get whatever you need, right? Because they're not out there doing it like Sam is. They're out there raising money, but they're not out there, like going country to country to country, like doing the raise like Sam is, right? And nope, I don't think anybody's going after it as hard and heavy as he is. But they are seen as somebody that like is the safe AI, right? And I think the kind of the way that this Dario and his sister, who are the co-founders, right? They came out of OpenAI as well as some of the other higher up people, and so these are people that really know this stuff. This is not some guy that decides he's going to start an AI company
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
right. So these people are, like you said, they're way ahead. It's hard to keep up with, and even like. The company that does the leaderboard now, this LLM leaderboard, they just got a whole shitload of funding to help support their growth because apparently they're like the de facto standard to test LLMs now, right? And they're
Right.
kind of been doing it as a nonprofit, so to speak, or something for a while now. And everybody's like, hey, let's support these guys, right? So,
And Anthropic is backed by Google, it's backed by or Alphabet and Amazon. So they're a major player as well.
yeah.
They
And
really
now all
are.
these banks, right? All these banks are like,
Yeah,
hey,
now they got capital.
yeah. And when you got Bezos behind you and you got Alphabet, which you want to talk about A to Z, right? Who's got more money than those two? I mean, really, when you think about it. And then, I mean, Larry Ellison's in with this Stargate thing, so he's not probably a big backer on Anthropic or anything like that. But like some of the world's largest and richest people and corporations are behind them, and they're seen as a really soft approach kind of a company. They're not aggro like OpenAI is, and they're not. It doesn't seem like they're throwing everything against the wall like Google is, right? It seems like they're very, very measured
You
in their
think they're
approach to it.
throwing everything against the wall?
They're putting
Really?
out products like dude. They're putting out products after product after product. It's unbelievable.
But that's what
Like,
Google does.
yeah, that's true.
I mean,
It
that's
just
just what
seems
they
like a lot.
do.
I don't feel like the new stuff that came out. I didn't even feel like I had a grip on the stuff before that, and now there's
Right.
new, right? That's really what the problem is. I haven't grasped all of what the improvements are over the last one yet. I guess is what I'm saying, right? So,
Yeah. 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 I think that's the way it's going to be and continues to be. You
so you
know,
think Chat GTP on the under over? When's Chat GTP 5 coming out?
hmm. Midsummer,
July, 4th of July.
July-ish. Yeah, let's say July-ish.
Okay.
They've
Okay.
got to make a move. I mean, this is what happens. It's
Yeah.
like all the pressure's on. Like you said, if you're looking at the LMSIS uh, rankings, they're not doing that well anymore, and you've got all of these other releases going forward. But I don't know. I I don't. What I feel about OpenAI is that they are creating a very good suite of tools. And just like Google has a lot of tools, but they're not a good suite of tools. Not like OpenAI, one interface, I go in there, I can do all the things, you know?
Google
Uh,
is all
uh,
over the place. Your notebook
yeah,
LM is over here. Your AI Studio is over here. Your Gemini
yeah,
is over here. I did see where they did release a Gemma, which a Gemma is apparently a smaller model
smaller.
of the Gemini, and it will run on device or run on edge
Yeah,
on devices, right? So uh, that's the thing. I'm just not feeling like I got a good grip. But like you said, Google, that maybe that's why it feels like that. Like OpenAI, like you said, is one portal. Here it is. Log in, right? Everything's there. Google, it's like, well, this is over here, and this is in this experimental, and this is a beta over here, and this
right. Yeah.
VO's over
I don't even
here.
know if I don't even know if things came out of experimental and already got a new release. It's like,
went from
okay.
went from experimental to version 5, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, damn, okay, here we go. You know. Um, so we'll see. I mean, I wasn't all that impressed with the VO3
You try
image,
it.
or I haven't tried it.
You
I
see the
just
results
saw,
on the internet,
yeah, I
right?
saw people doing it, and everybody's like, "This is incredible," and I was like, "Eh."
Yeah.
eh.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced. This video thing is still a little ways away from convincing me.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
doesn't have the mass. It doesn't have the physics, right? It really you can feel that the characters don't have mass. They're like pasted on top. They're like paper dolls pasted on top of a backdrop or whatever, right?
yeah,
It's
something like that. But what I do find interesting is the way they're putting frames together and trying to allow you to go from one thing to another, or bring two different things together into one, you know, uh, image. Those kind of things are moving along very rapidly,
I,
very
I
rapidly.
I think that's a result of there was a company that figured out that like LLM processing and image processing are like two different things, right?
Hmm.
Image processing, it happens like multi-parallel, right? Like multiple lines of data are going back and forth, and I'm showing 5 because that's all I got, but like I'm sure it's billions, right? And like language LLMs don't work like that. They're like single,
It's pretty
right?
one way.
And this one company, and God, if I remember the name, it would be a miracle, right? But
Uh-huh.
that was like 2 months ago, and I think everybody kind of adopted that, and I think that's led to one better language movement, and two is I think video is just getting so much better. I don't know if it's they got more processing. I don't know if they're discovering more ways to do it. I don't know if they're dog fooding it with what they produced already. I don't know how they're getting better so quickly. And they're really not saying. Nobody's really saying, "Hey, this is how we're improving this."
I think too. Last year I felt they were improving in the dark. And the reason why is because we had the elections coming up, and I think they put a lid on releases until after the election, because they really just didn't want a whole lot of things to roll out and it just interfere with our elections. And I think that's why you're seeing so much rolling right now so rapidly. I think just because part of 2024
Uh,
it was under wraps.
you're you're right. A lot. There wasn't a lot of. There was a few releases to kind of keep people happy, but mostly it was about funding.
Yeah.
And especially like right after the election, then it was like seriously about funding. Then they just like really started capping, right? I think that you may be right about that. I tell you, you got some insights sometimes that other people don't see. No, seriously, there was a research analyst. I don't know if you ever met him. I've known him for years now. I've run into him at conferences. Bob Egan. He used to be vice president of Gartner way back in the day, right? And he's a research analyst, right? He's a nor'easter guy, and he's a sailor and all that. But his thing was, I see around corners, right?
Mm.
And so I'm at a conference with him, and it was like the pre-conference day, right, where they have the workshops and stuff right before the big show goes on, right? And he and I were in this workshop together, and this guy said like his thing, and Bob's like, "So you think this about that about this?" And I was like, "Where the hell did you get that out of that?" And he's like, "So obviously, I was like,
He just started stringing it together.
okay, okay." I was like, mind blown, right? Like, it's perspective, really. It really experience and perspective and all that stuff, right? Very interesting to see how people perceive things and their perspective and their viewpoint, all kinds of stuff, right? So I'm just
I
talking
wonder
now.
if we're gonna miss. I wonder if we missed that in AI. Because I think the human brain has some unique things that John's way is a unique way, even though I'm still using the same meat brain as other people. I won't put together sentences in a specific way. I wonder if there's that in AI. I don't know. I
They say
guess
you
that's
can
partially
have it
personality.
you can they say you can have it right like in your in your style and all that kind of stuff, like,
Yeah,
but can it think in your style? Can it like perceive like you do,
that's
right?
that's that's the thing. That's yeah, that's interesting.
Because analysis comes from seeing many different aspects of something and then drawing all the points together and then figuring out how that all came together, right? Like after they have, I don't know, a big announcement, a new, forthcoming, you're like, oh, that's why that's like that and that's like that. Now I understand, right? Like I understand now why they removed the headphone jack, because they wanted to sell billions of dollars worth of wireless earbuds, right? It takes courage. They saw a market and they're like, we're going to make this market happen whether they like it or not.
Yeah, well, they were like, and then, well, and then everybody removed it.
But you know
It's
what?
like my phone doesn't have one, and I don't have an iPhone,
And you
believe it
don't
or
have a
not.
headphone jack, right? Everybody
I
do.
don't have a headphone jack anymore.
I saw a review from John Rettinger, who's been around forever and ever and ever, right? All the way back
Uh,
to Techno Buffalo and all that kind of stuff, right? The AirPods that we think are so new and so newfangled that they're out like 5-6 years now, when they first started really going after the AirPods market, right? Maybe 6-7 years. Apple put out a single headphone that was a wireless headphone that they used to sell so you could do phone calls with it. And it was designed and looked exactly like one AirPod. It was a single one that went in one ear, and it was black. And this thing was out for like 1 year, and they killed it off because nobody bought it.
Apple made this?
Apple made this pre-AirPods, back before even the white ones became so popular and everybody wore those and took them everywhere with them, right? Wearing them on the train, wearing them wherever they went, right? Even before that, I'm gonna guess
Wow.
2005, something like that. It was around the time of the iPhone 4, iPhone 5, right? When that was growing, and it was put out. It was kind of pushed to the business market of like a telephone call kind of a thing, right? Executive telephone call. It was so shaped like an AirPod. It had the long stem like the older ones, not like the pros, right? But like the
Right.
broke pods, they call them, right?
They call it
And
what?
broke pods. You never heard that
Oh,
one?
okay.
So the real broke pods are when you're still plugging them in, right? Those are the real broke pods. But then
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
but now if you got the pros, right, the other ones are the broke pods.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, at least I'm not broke podding it. Okay.
Yeah. They used to
I'm
make
so
fun of me in the neighbor. When I lived on the beach, I used to go down the beach and I would walk along the beach with them. And that's when they just had the long ones before they had the short ones, before they put out the pros, right? And everybody's like, what are those things hanging out of your ears that look so ridiculous, right? And I'm
I
like,
remember. I remember.
but anyway,
Uh,
yeah, it's
That's crazy.
so
That's
you
crazy.
do you think Apple will put an Apple Assistant in this? We'll put an AI assistant in the. I mean, you can already talk to Siri through it. So, like, why wouldn't they have that capability of like turning on that always on companion with these things in your ears, right?
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. Why not? Especially if you can do instant translations.
They
Hmm.
say they're coming out with three or four different languages this year on the AirPods themselves, right? The Pro probably be on the new model, probably can't get on the old one, right? Probably have to
Mhm.
get the latest, right? Uh, but I mean, I use it all the time in the Meta glasses. About 70% of the time, the guy that picks me up, no English, no English. I was like, don't worry, I got it, man. Let's talk, right? I turn it on and I start using it, and they're kind of astounded by it, right? But it's a convenient tool, right? It helps communication, but that's the most I use it. I mean, I just use it like for situations like that, right? In a pinch kind of a situation, right? So it's not a feature that you buy a product for. It's just a nice feature to have. It's a
Yeah,
quality of
it's
life kind of
definitely right.
improvement, right?
Right. For now. For now. But
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it will be a baseline feature in everything.
so you think the next language will be Mandarin? So like when China takes over the U.S., like we'll all know how to how to
China is
communicate
not
with.
taking over the US.
Mark
It's not
Zuckerberg's
happening.
teaching his kids how to speak Mandarin. I mean, read the
I don't think
handwriting on
that's
the
a bad
wall.
thing. I don't think that's a bad thing, but isn't he married to a Chinese lady?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So
Pr-
I mean,
Priscilla.
it's why not? If you've
Yeah.
got, native Chinese in the family, it's good to have both of those languages for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
So,
it's only
yeah.
gonna. I mean, he's trying to do the best for his kids, so his kids grow up to with a worldview, right? A global
Yes.
knowledge and all that sort of thing. Can you imagine being the kid of Mark Zuckerberg? Can you imagine, like, dude? One, you can't go to public. You ain't going to public school, right? You're being homeschooled. You're not even leaving the compound, right? I mean, unless
Probably
there's
not,
somebody
huh?
watching you, like, you know. But you got everything. I mean, you got everything.
Yeah. Um, that would be a challenge.
Yeah.
That would be a challenge, because you kind of want to have experience. There's only certain experiences you can get from, actual interaction with people.
And interaction with real life that you're not protected from, right?
Yep.
That's a big thing, man. It's important, I feel.
He's just going to
uh
put them in a simulation. That's all. His kids will grow up in simulations.
It's it's probably.
Yeah, sort of like he does with his AI trainers
Yeah, yeah.
that
The
have
robots.
total synthetic data to train our children with. Oh my
I
God,
was
this the future's getting crazy.
well, it's not so far out, right?
No, it's not. That's
Where
the
is this
crazy
thing?
part.
I'm looking for this. You were talking last time about Yan, right? Yan from Meta, right? Well, we're on Meta. I'm looking
Mm,
for this article that was talking about him. He was saying, like, here's the four things that AI doesn't have right now that it needs, right? That, without it, we're not going anywhere. Here it is. Current AI models lack, there's four essential characteristics of intelligent behavior that every animal or relatively smart animal can do, and certainly humans, he said. Understanding the physical world, one, having persistent memory, two, being able to reason, three. Looks like we're kind of pulling in on that one with AI,
it's
and
coming,
being
yeah.
and being able to plan and planning complex actions, particularly planning hierarchically. I always have a problem with that word, but you know what I mean, folks.
Hierarchy.
But it's hierarchy, right? So it's even worse for me. I'm like Jony Ive with aluminium, right? I'm like, whatever this thing is that they're inventing, I'm sure it will be the finest milled aluminium that money can buy. Because they're going to have him do the commercial. You know they are. They're going to have him doing the voiceover like they did for the Apple commercials, right? And
Yeah, 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 right. Definitely. You know. Interesting. Interesting. Those four things. But yeah, I see advanced reasoning. It's moving forward very rapidly.
And
So
the
that's,
planning, like what you just said about Claude and Opus 4, if it did 7
yeah,
hours of programming, it was obviously probably starting at top level and moving down. So it was thinking of things as a hierarchy. I can do hierarchy. It's the lily at the end that's the hard part for
yeah,
me.
exactly.
But
So we can do that part.
yeah, so it's at least it's made a footstep into it, right? With this, right? And also
Yep.
with the reasoning, there's reasoning models. Obviously, they eat up more bandwidth and more compute power, but that's to be expected, right? But the other things, the base persistent memory, that seems like it's
Mm,
still kind of far off. Even just from one prompt to the next, I've seen the Meta seems to be having a hard time remembering everything that I want included in an illustration. It always leaves out something. I don't know if that's intentional or it's forgetting, or there's just too much, or the context window. I have no clue, right? But
One thing I've learned when it comes to image generation is start new.
give up on trying to fix the old one and just build a new one.
Or take a screenshot of the old one and then say, here's what I want you to change, as opposed because all the errors in the image are in the thread.
Yeah.
And so it's reading the error over and over and over again while you're trying to fix it. And I found that if I just take a screenshot of the image, start a new conversation, and make the one change, it oftentimes helps. The other day I was doing one and I just could never get this thing to work. So I went my old way and went um to Canva, and just it's annoying.
I took so many meta pictures, imported them into Canva, and overlaid the text because I couldn't get meta I
Yes,
tried multiple times, and it would intentionally do it like not where I wanted it. It seemed like, right. It was like, and sometimes I was like, just remove all the text, and it would like look like it went in there with a claw hammer and just ripped it out. Right. I was like,
annoying.
I'm like, what are you doing? Right? Like, you're taking this like a little too literally, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
been there. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But
I did see where because they've released VO3 now, for those of you who are just doing trials and stuff and like don't want to invest a lot of money, you can now get VO2. It's not unlimited. There is limitations, but now VO2 is apparently free and open to the public to
Yeah.
generate your images and stuff. I saw the Sabrina Romanoff, I think her name is, on TikTok. I follow her, and she was talking about that. Um, there's just so much going on, man. It's like I was the one that was talking about the strategy. Well, just pick your strategy and don't worry about what the LLMs are doing, right, and all that. I said all that, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and now it's like I feel like I'm like kind of frozen in making a decision about who I'm going to. I want to get a subscription. I'll take your input on this. I want to get a subscription to one of them because I want to start doing some coding beyond vibe coding. I don't think I just want to do web-based app. I think I actually want to do applications, and I want to do image generation. I'd like to do video generation down the line. I don't want to pay $200 a month for the Chat GTP full. What would you suggest?
GenSpark. GenSpark. GenSpark.
Really?
GenSpark. Check out GenSpark. GenSpark is what they call a super agent. It's got the ability to chat with any of the major platforms. You can swap and switch, and it's also got image generation, video generation, slides, sheets. It's pretty
Everything.
much it's pretty dope. At first I was kind of like, yeah, it's okay, whatever, blah blah blah. But as I am doing more work and doing multiple things and being able to do it all in one thread, um, I'm able to code, vibe code something, and then it's like, hey, I need some imagery to go with this, and it'll start doing the image generation inside of another tool, but it's all in the same conversation.
So it's a federated model. Is it like a drop
Totally.
down box where you drop it down and like pick the one that you want, or does it kind of happen automatically based on like what your input is?
I mean, when you're in the chat for a pro user, you get unlimited access to all the chat bots, and you just pick whichever one you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all the models within all those chat bots. I mean, like there's so much and so many different
So
ones.
let's see what we've got, because I'm just happen to be on there. So you can get GPT 4.1, O3, and O4 Mini. Then you've got Claude Sonnet 4, and 3.7, and Gemini 2.5, and 2.5 Pro, Flash and Pro, and even DeepSeek. So you can pick through all of those. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But
Gen
to
Spark.
automatically mix also, if you don't need something specific or you don't require something specific and you want to do some deep thinking, it'll figure out which one to use.
So it GenSpark, is it genspark.com or
That's
IO or a?
genspark.ai.
Of course, .com is a thing of the past. So we're living in the post PC era. Now we're living in the post mobile era. Are we going to be living in the post laptop era? Post?
Shortly,
You think it will be like some kind of thing that's just like always hanging around us and
it's
like
going to be whatever these guys are getting ready to really.
that's cheating,
I
John.
know that is. But the cool thing about GenSpark, though, it does have a $20 a month plan.
Wow, really?
So, but
Is
yeah,
that
and I
on?
mean,
Does that give
it's
you
not
like
unlimited.
Okay?
It's got 10,000 credits, and everything that talks about credits. Who knows what a damn credit is? But I've been, you know, using it a lot lately, and I haven't used even 1,000 credits yet.
Okay.
So I'm going to really put, it to the test in the next few weeks. But what I've there's a free version, of course. You can test it, try it out first. But
Okay.
then after that, and then of course, if you need more credits, you can buy them. But literally, I've got paid uh, versions of pretty much all of them except for Gemini. I don't pay for Gemini, and that's because you can get to it, through AI Studios. So I don't need to pay for it if I can get to it. But I only find myself really using Claude and ChatGPT.
Okay. So those are
You
the
know,
big. Okay. So there's something to consider there, folks. I've never even heard of GenSpark. I've heard about federated models like that, right? And I've seen them advertised like on YouTube and TikTok and that kind of stuff, but I never really dug into it. So I'm ready this week to like finally take a dive.
it'll
So
blow your mind. I mean,
yeah.
did you use Manus or did you play with Manus at all?
I still have not clicked on that. You got the free trial, right? I still have not even downloaded it or tried it or anything. I haven't done any. I've done as much as I've told you about is what I've done, right? I've had to deal with some of the family stuff again this last week,
Yeah.
right? But that's all pretty much said and
So I
done now.
like
So
this better than Manus.
do you? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like GenSpark has the super agent in it, which will be like Manus. You give it some direction, it'll go and work on it in the background. You come back 2 hours later and your thing is built and ready to go, deploy me kind of vibe. But then also, um, it'll do, like I said, just the regular um, chats, AI chatting. And I think just recently it can do phone calls. So it can make reservations at a restaurant for you. Haven't tried that yet, but it's moving along, bro.
Yeah, it's happening like crazy, and I despite being one of the AI bros, I feel like I'm lagging. I really do. I'm sitting here
Dude.
professing to be the AI bro, and I don't even have a subscription to any of them. I've been trialing them and
Oh no,
doing,
yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta put $20 somewhere.
yeah, put my money where my mouth is, right?
Yeah, you gotta throw it down, man. You don't have to
Okay,
throw down 200. I will save you $180. The $200
okay.
version is not worth it.
Yeah, I wasn't going there, but I saw that like
Yeah.
with their new what did they just put out something and their codex thing with their codex thing it's them with the $200 version
Yeah.
and
I'm not
it's
paying $200 for AI. Not yet.
not yet. You will.
Not yet. Not yet. I mean, at some point, I can see AI replacing a person for real. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
it's not there yet. Matter of fact, I think, what was it? I read this one story where they set it up and they gave, these AI agents, um, basically they gave them a title. I don't even think they gave it a real directive, but they gave them a business title and uh, access to a Slack channel. And like you're the CEO, you're the CMO, you're the manager of the ad managers, blah 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 blah, right? And they tried to get them all to work together on a project, and it was total trash. And they would just talk back and forth to each other, but they weren't getting any work done. Sounds
Right.
like real humans, but but without a real directive, it's AI is not ready yet to be a
It's not
replacement.
autonomous enough where it's just going to see a responsibility, pick it up, go do it,
Yep,
and be done with it, and report that it's done, and give you
yep,
the outcome and all that. Yeah,
it's not there.
uh, it's funny. A friend of mine was asking about that on Facebook. He's like, "Is it completely autonomous yet? Can it, do outcomes? Right? Can it, and this, without even just giving it a position, right? You're like, oh, hey, and it's like, oh, hi,
Yeah,
Sally, how are you today? Hey, how's the coffee? Right? Like,
that's not
that's
ready,
nuts.
bro.
Yeah.
It's
So
not ready.
So technology marches on, folks. We're making steps into the four things that AI doesn't have. It has two of them pretty good. John and I decided it's made a step into two of them, but it's there's more to come, and trust me, there's going to be more next week. Don't they said this was AI Super Week, and that was just Google and Microsoft, and of course OpenAI had to throw in there, and Claude right at the end. Anthropic right at the end of the week too with the Claude drop. Right, so it was a big week, but
Big week.
I'm sure there'll be more, but we've run out of time here. We're at an hour. John's got stuff to do. I got stuff to do. I got to go eat some dinner. We'll catch you next week on another fabulous episode of the AI Bros, and we look forward to seeing you. Tell us what you want to hear about, because we're just talking about what we want to talk about. So we want your input. They love our clips. They hate our long shows.
Yep.
But thousands of views on the clip. I have to tell you, we're killing it on the clip. So keep watching those clips, folks. We love you.
Peace.
Peace out.